Hello, hey everyone. I'm Joey Sparks, and God's mercies are new again this morning.
This morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. I woke up this morning with my mind.
I've read some stories about people who climbed the top of Mount Everest. They reach the summit peak successfully, but then when they get there, they only have a few minutes from which they can observe all around them from that height. And as they do, the time is limited, first because of the traffic and how busy it has become. But then they try to take a picture and their fingers are so numb they can't operate their phone. Or their phone in the course of their travel has died, its battery has died, or perhaps has frozen over. And so they can't document this majestic moment, or they can't see it for as long as they would like to have seen it. Or perhaps there were some clouds in the way that kept them from seeing it and enjoying it. Imagine that. Going to great lengths, enduring a lot to get there, and then kind of missing out on the experience of seeing everything you wish you could see. Now, when we think about that principle, do we go to, say, the manger in Bethlehem? Do we look at it? Do we look at it and see exactly what all has changed when Jesus is born? Or maybe when we go to the Sermon on the Mount, do we understand exactly who's speaking and what all is changing? Do we pause to understand the significance of that moment? Or are we missing part of that moment? What about when we hear him crying out in Gethsemane, or we see him suffering there at Calvary, or when we stare in the empty tomb? Do we miss what God wants us to see? Do we pause and appreciate and know all that's changed because of Jesus Christ? When we open up John's Gospel and we read that account, that first chapter, especially the first half of that first chapter, is often called the prologue. It's John's rhetoric that sets the stage for all that's going to follow. And it's majestic. It's memorable. We often find ourselves memorizing parts of that, if not the whole thing. And the summary of the first 13 verses we can find is that Jesus is God, number one. Number two, Jesus makes God known. And number three, Jesus is a difference maker. Jesus is God himself. Jesus makes God known. And Jesus makes a difference. He makes a difference in that he made us. He made creation. There was no creation, and then he made creation. So he's a difference maker. But number two, within that creation, he makes a difference in morality. He now came to be the source of the light in the midst of a dark world. But that's observing Jesus from a distance a little bit. That's seeing what all Jesus means to the world at large. But then you look at verse 14 and you see the direct impact of Jesus. You see that Jesus makes an impact for us, for you, for me, for each person. The word talking there about beholding, we'll read that text in just a moment, but the idea is beholding. It's taking in something of a grand scale. And so we would go and we sit in an auditorium and we see a play or we see a movie and we're taking it all in. And there is a big picture. There is a singular reason we're there, but we're also absorbing all of these details and all of these moments and all of the things of the setting around it. So it all builds. Well, that's what we're beholding when it comes to the life of Jesus. It's all these elements of God's majesty and glory for the purpose of revealing himself to us. Let's read John 1, verse 14. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks before me because he was before me. For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. The law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only God, who is at the Father's side, but he has made him known." Jesus is God. Jesus makes God known. Jesus is a difference maker in the world as a whole, yes, but also directly now for each and every one of us. When we behold his glory, we behold that glory is full of grace and truth. It points us to the God, grace and truth. We thank you so much for your time this morning. It's our prayer that God's timeless word will be your meditation all day today.
I woke up this morning.